was your electric vehicle. Yeah.
Oh.
Hi there.
So when it's time to have people introduce themselves online, just kick it to me. It's easier for me to go through them than it is, because they don't all show up there.
Okay, everybody here? Jim. Okay, we always start the meeting by having everybody introduce themselves. So we're going to do that. And real quick, start with William. You're here.
Hi, I'm William, NH6ET. I'm the current trustee for the club station call sign, KH6EJ. I'm an amateur extra, and as you guys know, I love all things amateur radio. I operate VLF way up past the visible light spectrum. If it's waves and particles, I just love it. I'm the head of the repeater committee, and I'm also the head of the elections committee, which after the introductions, I'm going to talk to you guys about a little bit more.
Okay, thank you. Hi, I'm Joe, W86JOE. I'm the secretary of the club. I like all things radio, and over to Jim.
I'm Jim, W86FQI. I'm the current vice president. And like Joe, I like all things radio, especially anything electronics and digital and experimenting.
Hi, I'm Hank Call, KH6HAK, amateur extra class, space cadet extraordinaire, and ferrite dealer. Good afternoon. I'm Paul, W87BR, past president, past vice president, past treasurer, past trustee, past board member, and happy to be here. Just got back from the mainland, went through New England and went to Jim's old stomping grounds near Newark, New Jersey. And it was really hot. So.
You forgot you're an accomplished chef, right?
Oh, that, yeah, on the side. Yeah.
Les, with one S, K0BAD, and I'm probably the only one in the club right now that doesn't have a Hawaiian call sign. But I've had this call for over 60 years, I guess, since 1960. And
No, Bob, AH. Is that Hawaiian? AH, yeah. AH is Hawaiian call.
yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, I just have been reluctant to get rid of it. When I got my extra class, I had an option of getting a special call sign and decided not to. So there you go.
Thomas, I'm also, I guess, still on the repeater committee. I missed this meeting this morning, but I still exist and I will be around. I love radios, anything radio related.
We didn't have a repeater committee in this meeting this morning, so you're good.
I did not miss much.
Got him? Okay. I'm Bob. I'm AH6J. I'm former everything. I started the club. And I'm now refreshment committee, which is the best job I've ever had.
I'm Tom, W86EBS. Been in the club for a while.
Jim, W86EMN, amateur extra.
Okay, our guest here.
Aloha, everyone. I'm Bill Hanson, N0CAN. I'm with Civil Defense. I'm also a past vice president and president of BIAR.
Hey, welcome back.
WH6EPS, amateur extra. I'm up in the Mountain View area. I guess all things VHF, UHF, and HF. So mostly everything we cover. I'm really into SDRs, scanning, and a lot of experimentation projects. So that's kind of my hobby there.
I'm Kyle, W6FQQ.
Okay, thank you. And Tony?
Aloha, I'm Tony Kitchen, Whiskey Hotel 6, Delta Victor India, current BIARC treasurer. I'm also with Aries as the Assistant Section Emergency Coordinator and on the VOAD State Communications Working Group. And in that role, I'm part of the response coordination efforts for the Maui wildfire incident. And on a conceptual level, we've got several people, if you're familiar with the open system interconnect model that the internet is based on, OSI, a lot of people here are at the physical layer. So they handle the transmission of voice and data from point A to point B. I work at the application layer level. So I'm doing applications that utilize what people, the capabilities people give us at the physical layer. So that's kind of conceptually what I've been up to.
All right, thank you, Tony. Okay, Mel, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Mel, KH6EKD, and I've got an advanced license. I enjoy MCOM and I enjoy MCOM and digital modes.
Okay, thank you. Mike Lass,
You hear me? Oh, no.
hear you
Can
now.
me?
Yeah.
Oh, now you can.
Also
Good.
see you.
November Hotel 7 Juliet Tango. I've been a ham for 60 years or so, 61, I don't know. Anyway, I enjoy it. I enjoy the camaraderie, except I can't get to the meetings too far away and I gotta be in Kona tomorrow, so, but I like to do it visually. Have a good day.
Hey, thank you, Mike. Okay, Phil.
Hello, this is Kilo Mike 6 November Foxtrot Sierra. I'm in Captain Cook, amateur extra. Been a ham for only about 6 years, but let's see, I'm into DIY and I'm currently trying to learn Morse code.
Okay, thank you. I thought I saw Lee up there.
Like I said, you can't see them all. That's why I
Oh,
have to do it.
Lee, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. W6LC, amateur extra. I love all things radio, some quite a bit in theory, and I do the Hamgram, the club newsletter.
Yes, and thank you very much for that. Anybody else?
Well, you went out of order my list, so I'm not sure who all we had, but who is JB?
That's John Buck, KH7T. And I'm a past member of BIARC, but I haven't been active for several years now. And this is my first actual activity here with a club activity for a long time. And I have moved to a Huli Circle in Waimea, and I have a building full of ham equipment and boxes, which hopefully will get unpacked sometime in the next year or so. That's about all I have to add. Oh, I have an extra class license with the old style code and all that stuff. See you later.
All right, thank you.
John,
Anybody
you
else?
say you were a past member. I thought you were a founding father of the club.
No, I'm afraid not.
Anybody else?
Did you get Gary Miller, KH6GM? No.
No.
Hey, this is Gary Miller. Can you hear me?
Now I
Can
can.
you hear me?
Gary.
Okay. All right. Yes. K6GM, amateur extra. I'm a cert lead for Lapa Hoi Hoi cert team. And interest is in MCOM primarily. And I work with Mel, K6EKD up here with local folks trying to work out radio things. So good to see you on. Happy to see Bill there. Bill Hanson. Thank you.
Hey, mahalo. Are you related to David?
No, no relation.
No relation. Okay.
How about Luke, WH6GRW?
Hello. Yeah, Luke. I'm up in Volcano. I haven't made it to an actual physical meeting yet, but I've been on a few on Zoom here. So thanks for having me. And I've been a club member for a couple of years, so you'll see my face around more.
Okay. Did we get Phil, KM6NFS?
Yes, I believe you did.
Yeah,
Okay, yep,
Phil
there we
started
go.
already.
Yeah.
That's it?
Thanks.
We got Mel. But you want to go back to Mel for Grid Madness?
Who?
Mel, Grid Madness.
Yes, announcement about.
Hey, Mel, did you have an announcement for Grid Madness?
Oh, no, I was gonna have him part of the program. Okay, I thought you
Oh,
said somebody
okay.
else. Okay. Okay, I'm Alan Okinaka. I preside over the meetings, board meeting and the regular meeting. And I'm a journal, amateur journal, and I've been in, how long? 3 years, 4 years? Yeah, lose count. Anyway, today what we have is we're going to have Bill come up and talk about civil defense first. And then after that, we'll have Mel on our Zoom call, talk about Grid Madness that's going to be held this year after we skipped last year. And then finally, we'll have Jim come up and show us some of the antennas that he's brought in today. You and who else came? Just your antenna or somebody else?
No, the new club equipment.
It's Gary.
Club equipment.
Oh, that's club equipment. Okay,
Yeah, that's
sorry.
everything brought in today.
Yeah.
The batteries.
Okay, so he'll demonstrate the antenna. So we got a full meeting. So hang around and we'll start off with Bob. Could you come up and introduce our guest, please?
Can I make an announcement first?
Go ahead. Oh, sure.
I need to make it a quick one. So remember, we have the November club meeting. That's not like this meeting. We call this a program. This is where we have guest speakers come in, we show off equipment, we talk about technical stuff. It's a very social event. Twice a year, in November and in May, we have the membership meetings. These are the official business meetings of the club. And this is where the members get to tell the club what they want out of the club. They give feedback. If you don't like what we're doing, you need to tell us that. If you really like what we're doing, we need to hear that. So we do more of it and stuff like that. So we're going to put out a call for agenda items, but people can also make motions on the floor of the meeting. But then the critical part that I'm here to talk to you about is the annual election happens during this November meeting. I believe we have 3 members that are terming out on the board. And we have 1 member who is going to need to be confirmed because he's on a temporary appointment. I am running the nominations committee and I have not yet received a single nomination. So remember, you can nominate yourself, you can nominate someone else. I encourage you to check with that person before you nominate them. And if we don't get enough nominations, it starts a special process that we have called arm twisting. And there will be serious arm twisting. Now, I wanted to put this out before Bill got to speak, before he leaves, just because, you know, he was a past board member. Maybe we could talk him into it again. Just saying. But okay, yeah. So if you have a nomination for the board meeting or for a board position, go ahead and email me or any other board member and they will get it to me. And if we need to, we will, you know, seek out people individually, but this is really your time to get what you need out of the club, not just the membership meeting, but also by participation in the board. And you can also participate through being on the committees. I really encourage people to do that as well. So that's what I have.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, and if you have agenda items, I would send them to Uncle Alan, email them to Uncle Alan, and any member can bring any agenda item at any time for that meeting.
Okay, Bob.
Oh.
Thank you, William.
As you can see, I'm Bob. Paid 6J, been licensed since 1957. I'm now at terminal age, amateur extra. But I'm here actually to introduce Bill Hanson. Bill Hanson is, I would call him a good friend, but he's also the publicity person at Civil Defense, and he's also one of the planning people at Civil Defense, plus an all-around good guy. And he past president and vice president of this club. Bill Hanson, please come up. His call is N0CAN.
I remember one day I actually held a bucket of keys. Remember that bucket of keys, Bob? Who's holding the bucket of keys now?
Yeah.
Hi, aloha. I'm Bill. Can you guys see me over there? Not really.
Yeah. Yep. You're
All right.
on.
So thank you, Bob, for inviting me to the meeting. I know you wanted me to come here several times, but I saw that I had time today to make this all happen. So yeah, about civil defense. Why don't we kind of go down memory lane a little bit, right? Back in 2012, FEMA got the idea, the notion that maybe they should adopt, maybe we should adopt as a whole, as a nation, a whole community approach towards emergency response. So not just the fire department, not just the police department, not just civil defense and amateur emergency management agencies, etc., but what's the community got to offer? So if you take a look at around the United States, less than 1% of the population of the United States are emergency responders. So that's great, but we could take a look at Katrina. We could take a look at what hit Puerto Rico and other type of disasters. We can look at Maui and just see how things can get overran quite easily, quickly. And then now it's like, what do we do? Well, again, 2012, FEMA said, why don't we adopt a whole community approach? And at the same time, why don't we take a look at a thing called building community resilience, right? So we see that even in Hawaii in the ancient days, that we had that mentality of the ahupua'a, the mountain to the sea concept, and you take a pizza, because everybody loves pizza, right? And then slice it up into those triangular pieces and push up the center, and that kind of looks like an island, and that kind of looks like an ahupua'a as well. And at every single elevation, there's a different type of resource that you could find. Maybe the canoe builders are going to be down here. The coconut huskers and harvesters are going to be here. The poi, the ones who grow taro and make poi, and the ones that do the kapa and so on and so forth. But what's interestingly enough is that if one community gets hit by something, the other communities around can form this net and also feed in and support those other communities. I think we saw that really kind of play out well, community-based that is, with the 2018 lava eruption down in Lower Puna. You remember that thing they called the hub that was across the street from Pahoa High School? That was not the doing of the government. Maybe it was it could have been considered maybe a void or a gap that the government had, that the community stepped up and said, hey, we want to do this. We want to make this happen. We want to be able to take donations. We want to be able to provide food and any other type of resources that not necessarily that the government was ready to and be able to service and take on. Yes, we did do certain things, but there are also certain things that maybe we didn't have in play that could have been in play. For example, just like bandwidth, the government has a certain amount of bandwidth. If we took a look at Hawaii County Civil Defense, we only got like 6 guys in the office. And then, during times of disaster or hazard, we actually start to look at leveraging other components out there, other agencies and other community-based organizations, such as the CERT teams, the community emergency response teams, and also the neighborhood watch program, and so on and so forth. Recently, Tony and I participated in a summit up at KMC, and that was with Vibrant Hawaii. Are you guys familiar with Vibrant Hawaii? No? Tony, have you discussed about Vibrant Hawaii over here?
I don't think I brought it up at the club activity, but I have talked to individuals.
So Vibrant Hawaii is actually a takeoff or a spin or an evolution of what happened with that hub there in front of Pahoa High School. And so they're going around this new NGO, or recently, fairly new, and they're building out these resilient hubs around the island. They have 40 plus physical as well as virtual hubs around the island. And we like their model. Tony was invited, he came up, he did a presentation as well, and he was able to add value while he was up there talking about radio and emergency radio communications. So that was a good thing. If we take a look at the CERT program, over the years, CERT has also evolved a bit more, where CERT has in its name emergency response. I kind of don't like that word about response. And the reason is because if you're responding to something, that means something played out that maybe didn't have to play out, right? So for example, had I taken down the trampoline in the backyard before the high winds came, it wouldn't have blown it up into the transformer and blew out the wires and stuff like that. Now we got people responding because of me, because I didn't do something that I could have easily done. You know, similar kind of if you think about it, so the CERT program was built upon response to 9/11, nationally that is, but it was always a program in California, in Los Angeles with the fire department up from the 1970s on. It only took national stage after 9/11, and 9/11 brought in a lot of people just wanting to help, right? And why not? It's a disaster. There's things that need to be done. We see kind of a parallel even today with Maui. There's a disaster. There's a lot of things that need to be done. Now, what can we do? And so out of it came the Citizen Corps program. And the Citizen Corps program embraced things like response for the CERT program. And then there's also things like the neighborhood watch, like for security in your community, for medical response enhancement, surge in medical needs. And that would be like with the MRC, the Medical Reserve Corps. So you can see that the president was putting this together so that we can have ways and means for the community to step up and make good. But it's actually more the government stepping up and helping the community to do what the community does well. You know, again, going back to the ancient days in Hawaii, it wasn't necessarily the government that was doing it. It was the community was making things happen. So with the evolution and the progress of the CERT program, you know, the light bulb goes on every so often. We say, you know what? How often does the CERT actually respond in an emergency say in a given year? And some people said 7, some people said 3. So we say, let's say 5 days. And then the question comes up then, what do you do for the other 360 days out of the year that you're not responding? I remember one time we had an audit done of our office. Civil defense, what do you guys do when you're not responding? Kind of the same question. Shouldn't we be doing something when the blue skies are out there instead of the gray skies? And the answer is yes. So out of that was born a project we call Project 360. And in there are 4 pillars of this Project 360 that was embraced by Citizen Corps and CERT here in Hawaii County. And the first one is build more CERT teams around the island in your community. Next is build or develop more communities that have an emergency plan. And likened to it is the third one, is just develop or have more family emergency plans around the island. And then the fourth one, which is really keen to you guys, is develop more community-based emergency communications. And that's one of the 4 pillars that we embrace. And so whatever we do, we want that to play out so that we can reach the last person in the last house on the last block in our community. So the concept of last person, last house on the last block. Now, I got to say that not necessarily can civil defense get to that last person in the last house on the last block, but you can. We saw it play out at least once, if not twice, when the fiber optic cable was busted on the other side of the island, and 2.5 districts went without internet and also phone communication. And it affected the way that we do business so much that nobody could make a 911 call. 911 was working, but you just couldn't get into there. So it was like, okay, now let's get everybody to say, you know, if you have an emergency, go to the nearest fire station or go to the nearest police station or go to the nearest hospital. And that's how we were playing out. And then so we had contacted BIARC and said, hey, can you make sure you get all your operators up and to notify them that this is what we're looking to do until we can get that fiber optic restored. I think it took over 18 hours to get that restored. So we could see that that could play out over here. But what was interesting is the mechanism to get from operator into the community to the last person in the last house on the last block. It was still an area that we still needed to find a way to make it all happen. If we can achieve that, we've achieved a lot, right? I don't have all the answers, of course, and together we can find all the answers, but that would be the optimal goal, to be able to make that affect that. With the Vibrant Hawaii resilient hubs, the concept of embedding an emergency communications person at these hubs was brought up and was given attention and was given a affirmative nod that this is where they want to go with it. So I think this is a good thing, that all of the hubs are looking to have it, wherever they're physical and even where they're not, where they're virtual, to have MCOMs involved. So we had used, what was that incident that we had recently used Telegram on? Was it a Kona Low?
Yeah, the last big storm we had. We call that? I forget what we called that. Seems like ages ago.
Seems like ages ago. I think it was
No, it was the tropical storm that petered out before it got here.
there was a Kona Low of some sort I could remember.
So we had an official incident name for that, and its name is escaping me.
Yeah, me as well. It's because there's been two more since that time. But they had used Telegram as a way of chatting and getting information. I really liked that. I also participated and saw the traffic, and I thought this was the cat's meow, to be able to, that we can get all that kind of information digitally and in real time. And they were even attaching photos, they were attaching video. That was really cool. And that we could glean from there and ask questions, and we can give answers and so on and so forth. Again, that platform that Vibrant Hawaii was using was called Telegram. I think it belongs to a Russian who he lives in France right now versus in Russia. So you can see that there's means out there and ways out there that we can accomplish certain things and to get to these people. I like that summit that we went to, where the summit actually played out communications based upon a hurricane. So we had used Azelle pretty well embedded in everybody's memory of what happened and how it played out. So Azelle 2014, we used that as the baseline. And then what we did is we simply just played out an emergency communications at different layers and levels. Okay, now what do you do as a Vibrant Hawaii member? Now, what do you do as a Vibrant Hawaii leader? Now, what do you do as a Vibrant Hawaii leader to your member, and your member to your leader, and leaders to leaders, and the hub to hub, and civil defense to the hubs, or to the leader, and the leader to the civil defense? So all those different layers were being played out at that summit. And I really liked how we did that. We built up this battle rhythm. And you know, what was interesting is the majority of the people that were at that conference or that summit didn't know very much about emergency communications or about incident command system. But what we did is we tried to build this battle rhythm over like 2 or 3 days to get them used to it, and then condition them. And then finally, sure enough, we did the actual exercise, or what we also call, rather than the exercises, a rehearsal of concept. So we just kind of go through and figure out things, not that there are any expectations yet on doing an exercise, but you know, hey, what do you bring to the table? I don't know, what do you bring to the table? What do we all bring to the table, and what our limitations might be? And then from there, we can start to build out a roadmap. So we like that. We've started embracing that thing called rehearsal of the ROC, the rehearsal of concept before we do it. Everybody wants to do an exercise. Let's do an exercise. Maybe not. Let's not do an exercise. Maybe let's do a rehearsal of concept first, so we understand what everybody brings to the table. Along that, you know, one of the other pillars is building up, having a family emergency plan and a community emergency plan. But we also should look at all of our individual agencies and organizations also having some kind of a plan. So, you know, I would like to ask BIARC, if you haven't thought about it yet, to have an emergency plan. I don't know if I should ask the question, do you have an emergency plan? Do you have an emergency plan that could be implemented as a binder, says, boom, here it is, away we go, per disaster? Or is it an all hazards emergency plan? Because the way you're going to play it for a hurricane, or you're going to play it for an earthquake or a volcanic eruption, they're going to be pretty similar, right? You're going to stand up X, Y, and Z. You're going to play out A, B, and C, and so on and so forth. So please consider that, because whenever well, that's cute. Can you guys hear that in the microphone? There's some little chicks that just entered in. They want to be part of the presentation, apparently. Alan. So yeah, when it comes to what do we do? What do we do? I mean, are we going to sound the sirens? Okay, well, let's take a look at the emergency plan, right? Okay, when does BIARC stand up? Well, let's take a look at the emergency plan. All those kind of things, I think it would be nice if we just take a look at plans, because we can plan and plan and plan, but when in the heat of the battle, it's not that easy to think and shoot from the hip and get it right. You got standing operating procedures, you got standing operating guidelines, you got steps you got to follow. And to get them exactly right, I got 10 things I got to do. Now, Bill, go ahead and name them off. Boom, boom. No, but if I open up that book, I like Einstein. Einstein says, why memorize something when you can just write it down? He's my man. Yeah, just write it down. And then because there's so much we have to juggle, right? And in the heat of the battle, it's not that easy to get it right, unless you have a plan that you're going after. And then what do we do? Just like you guys do in, is it October timeframe? You do the set. Yeah. You know, I didn't participate in the set, but I know that Doug Wilson was representing civil defense, and he does a really good job of doing that. I did ask him, hey, do you want me to participate? He goes, no, we got it. But we know how to turn that on and turn that off and turn it on again when we need it, okay? So when we do actually play something out, know that you guys are very important to the overall outcome of a response. I think it's, as I was saying, I think where we can make headway is not during necessarily the response itself, but prior to us coming into the response. Have you heard this thing called the chaos theory or the butterfly effect? It has a law. It's called the law of sensitive dependency upon initial conditions. So what does that mean? It means narrow the gap is what it's saying, right? Whatever you could do prior to us going into response is where we want to be. Optimize that thing, whatever that be. Is it mitigation? Is it prevention? Is it protection, preparedness? Those are the things we want to do. How can we better prepare? Did we check our communications lines? Did we check our batteries? Did we check our generators? Did we top them off? Is the antenna sound? We had an antenna, Kulani. Didn't you work on that one too? The Kulani antenna, it was like fractured or cracked or lightning hit it or something.
Obliterated it, then the second one was an internal fracture.
Yeah, so I mean, even little tiny things, and you're going, well, what's going on here? Well, again, fine tuning something so that when we go into battle, into a response, we're in the best shape that we can be, right? It's a chess game that we're playing. We're trying to maneuver our what do they call them? Caroms, the knight, and all those. We're trying to position them as in optimal position as much as possible, so that whatever comes our way, we've done at least the best that we can, right? Yeah. You see that maybe played out recently on August the 8th. We also had fires. We actually, how many fires do you think we had? 3, Kohala, 5. There's a total of, I counted 6. There were 2 in Pahala. There was 1 in Naalehu. There was 1 in Kohala Ranch, in the ranch area. There was another one at Mauna Kea Resort. And there was the one at Lalamilo, which is near Waimea. Maybe there were a couple of others, but those are the ones that I know about that played out. what we had done is we had taken another step and said, maybe there's something else we can do. And what we did is DPW was identifying who had what resources. These are commercial resources, heavy equipment resources. Then we went one step further and said, well, why don't we identify exactly where they're at? So that if we have to call up this bulldozer, we know that this is the shortest route to the bulldozer or to the fire, instead of ordering one that's 2 hours or 4 hours away, which could be a great difference, right, in the outcome. The other thing was to say to the commercial people, hey, heads up, because this is like the timing that we need to take a look at. And sure enough, I think that helped us to quail some of the anxiety and the frustration, or just to do the fighting response in a more timely manner. Because you figure the winds are blowing, we clocked the winds over at Kohala Ranch at 84 miles an hour gusts. That's more than that's a category 1 hurricane. So, you know how they said, Jim Croce said, you don't pull on Superman's cape. And what else don't you do? You don't shoot your water hose into the wind, because they ain't going anywhere, right? So actually, they even learned something else. They did a little bit of Tom English on there. English, you know, you do English on something, like on a bowling ball or something. So they did it with the hose. They would use the wind to redirect the water towards where they got to shoot. Ain't that kind of cool? Yeah. So that was kind of cool that we learned a couple of good things. But out of it, we could have just been as well in a situation that Maui faced. But luckily, the stars aligned, the planets were in alignment, and things worked out for our good. Again, sensitive dependency upon initial conditions, getting it right. I think one thing that we do really well on this island, we've got room to improve, of course, and that is just building these relationships and having relationships, not necessarily saying, oh, Alan, I'm sorry, I don't have an MOU on you, therefore, yeah, but we like the handshake thing. We like the eye to eye. Okay, got it. I got your back, you got my back kind of a deal.
But we actually do have an MOU with you.
I know you do. You put it together. So that's a good thing that we went even there. So we are going even further with MOUs, of course. But the concept, the idea is that even FEMA says, more than anything else, as you go into a hazard, a disaster, an incident, is relationships. More than having money, more than having equipment, we can have the best of the best, but what we need is just to be able to talk to each other. Yeah, let our hair down, those who still have it, and then just talk shop and make it all happen. Yeah, it's like that. You know, it's good that we have the various clubs around the island, that we have this striving. So some of you guys must feel something, yeah, or else it doesn't drive you to be here on a monthly basis. But I commend you for doing that. On behalf of Civil Defense, I commend you all for doing that, because at times we do need each other to be there. I was really impressed with you guys. I would say that you sent out Tony, but Tony, that one time that we had that discussion, that was a good discussion that we had, Tony. That was really good how we were able to talk about things at the same level that we understand as well. You were talking amateur radio at the same level that we understand emergency response. We were talking about things like the incident command structure and using the same kind of wording and how we would go out by assignment, and then looking at setting up emergency communications and where would you be housed. I mean, there was that one incident that which escapes my mind still.
Tropical Cyclone Calvin.
Yes, that's what it was. I even had Tony in my office, so he set up shop in my office, not in the back room. He was in the office. He was right there, and then I can keep an eye on what things were going on. And then we also had another person that was with Vibrant Hawaii that was also keeping eye on things that were being populated. So I think it was a good exercise. It was good eye opener and opportunity for all of us to get a little bit more refined, because someday maybe our, Lahaina moment might come, or something similar to that. We haven't seen a good shaker or a good big wave coming our way, or whatever it might be that's just out there on the horizon, that we're going to need each other to be able to make it through, to play that chess game, to make sure that when we do pull the plug, pull the trigger, push the button, that everything goes off like clockwork. Yeah. So I commend you guys and thank you very much.
I have a question for you.
Tony.
So my first question is, if I ask you a question that would tend to put you on the spot on behalf of civil defense in front of this group, will you forgive me for it and not hold it against me?
Go ahead. Knock yourself out there, Tony.
All right. Well, as amateur radio operators and communicators, we have the mantra PACE, which I'm sure we've all been familiar with for a long time. Primary, auxiliary, contingency, and emergency communication plans. So PACE is important to all of us. What we would like is to implement that with civil defense. Specifically, I would like to have a high-speed microwave link going into the civil defense headquarters. I'd also like to have UHF and VHF capabilities, both voice and digital. And I'd also, as an emergency, like to have HF capabilities as well. What are the chances that we could make any of this come to fruition in the next year?
So there's two parts to your question that I'm interpreting or understanding. That is, do we embrace PACE? And the answer is yes. We see the value in PACE. Now, can we get these different types of equipment in play? It's bigger than me to say yes and no here. Yeah, because there's some moving parts right there. Yeah, so we'll take a look at that. But we will take a look at that, all right, to see what it takes to make it happen. All right. Okay.
This isn't so much a question as you were talking about the things that you do when there isn't a disaster. And I have an example of that where someone from your office came to our clinic and helped review our disaster emergency plan and our binder and make suggestions on what we can do. And then also, who would we go to under certain circumstances? What would be the chain for our healthcare facility to use if we need fuel? We would go through our Hawaii HHEM, and then if they would contact you guys, but if we can't contact them, then we could, so, we really appreciated the time that you guys spent, helping us hone our plans. So that's just an example of something you guys do when there isn't a disaster at the moment.
Did that happen recently?
Yes.
Okay, so I know where you work at then. Yeah, so we do have the ability to look over emergency plans. We've done that with multiple community emergency plans, but it starts with the entity, the organization, the agency, the department, the community saying, we want an emergency plan. We want to put together an emergency plan. Would you help us? So you can do it on your own, or we can vet it, or we can work on it together. But the ownership has to come from that organization that wants to put it together. Why? Because we want to make sure that you have buy-in on your plan, and you're not trying to buy in on a civil defense plan or the government's plan. It's your plan, and we're here to support your plan as well. So yeah, we're talking a little bit about these things we call RFAs, requests for information, requests for assistance. So the assistance comes with, we need fuel, right? We need water, those kind of things, or whatever it might be. Yeah, then we'll look at where your road ends and maybe where another road needs to be picked up by somebody else, by another entity. So because you're in the county, yeah, I could see you knocking on our door and say, hey, we're going to run out in 12 hours, whatever it might be, or we can last for 24 hours. Can you help us at this point? So that we can make sure that we got that RFA in in a timely manner so that we can address it. Thank you. Yeah.
I think Gary has a question.
But the thing that I really look at is the fact that amateur radio has a way of communicating when all the traditional means of communication goes down. So I'm always thinking about how do we fit that into emergency response? You know, where is that? I've even had crazy ideas I've shared with William where we could hoist a balloon above Hilo at about 500 feet. Remember, we just talked about it, put a little repeater in there such that all our repeaters that depend on power, we don't need them anymore. We can have them up there. The other thing I thought about is maybe we could have, these walkie-talkies are down to like $5 and 5-mile radius line of sight. Why don't we give them away to each household? Because when the cell towers go down, and just had a heart attack, I need an ambulance here or something like that, see. But I wanted to see some kind of a formal partnership that we could have with civil defense with the fact that we provide a means of communicating when the traditional ways of communicating goes down.
Thank you, Alan. So I think we could take a look at William at that MOU and see what it entails in the MOU, and does it have that kind of a clause or a condition or a statement regarding, do you help? Can you step in? How do we play our roles?
Well, I'll tell you that the MOU says that we will step in, and I have my own microphone because I'm the MC. We will step in and we will support civil defense in any way they request within our means. But that it's structured that way for a reason. We talked during the board meeting about self-deployment. BIARC will never self-deploy. We will work through the proper channels for a coordinated response. That needs to get discussed in advance so that our partner, civil defense, knows how we can be of assistance to them and they know what we can provide. But we also can't promise the world because we're only one entity that can only do so much.
Thank you, Alan. So a couple of more things there, and that is, remember I talked about the rehearsal of concept, you talk about the balloon and what can we do? I say, why don't we virtually put the balloon up, do a rehearsal of concept someday. We'll pick a hazard, we'll pick a disaster, we'll pick a situation and say, okay, now let's play it out. Now, what do you bring to the table, BIARC? What do we expect? What are expectations on the civil defense side? And then, how do we see it play out? Maybe that would be a good way. Perhaps maybe on a yearly basis, other than set, because set is actually an exercise, but just to do a rehearsal of concept, right? Another thing is just the plan. So what about the lady with the walkie-talkie? Why are we giving her a walkie-talkie? What's her plan say? Once you get the walkie-talkie, again, comes back to, in my opinion, a lot of things comes back to, what's the plan? What are we doing? What are we trying to achieve? And I think that's just to be written out so that we don't get lost in throwing this at something or throwing something else at something. And yeah, like that. The other thing I wanted, just as I'm remembering right now, Alan, and that is, I'd like to invite BIARC to come to the EOC. We've done some renovations. It cost a lot of money, but we had to because it was just the air conditioning and other things were just breaking down. And so we did the renovation. And to have one of your BIARC meetings there at the EOC, and then the Emergency Operations Center, of course, and then we can give you the red carpet tour of the EOC. You can kind of then give you an idea and the concept of what does civil defense really do during a response. And we can play that out. We can populate the boards if you want to see that happen. And then by doing so, I think it'll be a little bit easier to understand, oh, I see what civil defense is about. Because you guys were there, you saw the inner workings, you saw, where Tony or William would be setting up and manning the station, or however it might play out. Okay, so I want to invite you to have one of your meetings, your future meetings over at Civil Defense. We'll open it up to your membership. Okay.
So So I've got two items here. The first is speaking to items like the idea of the balloon or having FRS radios that we can distribute to the membership. A lot of times we're really bad about approaching this as providing a solution where we don't know if there's a problem. So, and that's where we need to coordinate with our partner civil defense, because we need to know what problems they have for us to solve. Now, Bill brought a problem to the club through me a while back, talking about how to get the message out to the very last house at the end of the very last road. So we need to be responsive, and that is still a problem, right, Bill?
I don't know, is it? We still have to test that,
Well-
that water and see, can we actually get to that last, do we know who that last person is in the last house? Do we know where that last house is?
That's all right. He's got my microphone. They can hear him.
Yeah, so I mean, and there, you know, there's over 100 communities around the island. How many are actually organized communities versus just subdivisions that are just there? There's a lot of hurdles still in front of us.
Now, it's helpful to bring solutions, even though we don't know if there's a problem. But it's also a lot more beneficial if we go the other way with that too and find out what civil defense needs from us as an organization, as individual amateur radio operators, and strive to meet that need. And that leads me to my second point. You said that you recommend that we have an emergency response plan for BIARC. And I'll tell you right now that we do not, and it's intentional. And I want to get your take on that. We as an organization have decided that we are not, as a club, responding to incidents. Our goal is to provide robust infrastructure and good education and coordinate as needed to be able to feed the other organizations, our CERT teams, you know, keeping them trained, keeping them engaged, making sure they have repeaters like the Orchid Land CERT repeater that we set up, stuff like that. So as an organization ourselves, we never put together a plan because we figured our work is before, not during. Our individual work is during. Tony's work with VOAD, his work with ARES, other members work with ARES and their other groups like the faith-based organizations they're with and stuff like that. So do you, knowing that, what advice do you have for us as a group?
So there is a different kind of a plan that we can approach and take a look at, and that's called a continuity plan. When everything starts to unravel, now what does our organization do in that respect? Right, now we change from mild-mannered reporter to Superman somehow. BIARC turns into the Superman character. Now you're making sure that what during this time of response? What is your plan during that time? It may not be an emergency plan, but it may be a continuity plan. Continuity plan of how do we get over this gap, this hurdle that we're now all in right now, to make sure that on the other side we come out as best as possible.
WH6 EPS. I guess my question is somewhat related to the lines we just been talking about. More on information dissemination and then what that process looks like. So does it start with push notifications, move to EAS for television and radio, then move to NOAA communications? At what points, where's the standard, and what should someone at the last house expect? Should they buy the FM radio, or are they battery backup? Is the NOAA, is that the last place to look? You know, just keeping everybody on the same page during that information dissemination.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gary, for that. So one of the expectations that civil defense has of everyone is that you actually are signed up for the civil defense alerts. You know, it's not a good number. I think it's only 8% of the population are signed up for notifications. So it's like, where are they getting their notification from if it's not from us? Is it from the television? Is it from social media? Or is it just not at all? Or are they just waiting for somebody else to do it? Or they just don't have a smartphone? What are the mechanisms that are preventing them? Do we just not campaign enough and get the word out enough? Are we making it too difficult for people to sign up? You know, it is a la carte, where what you sign up for is what you signed up for. It's not what we asked you to sign up. You want tsunami information? I want tsunami information. Tsunami information only. Would you like hurricanes added to that order, sir? Would you like to supersize your order with text message as well as email message? No, I'll just take the phone message, please. There's different ways that you can carve it up, but it's up to you how you feel most comfortable about, even to the fact that we even have social media. Would you like it via Facebook or via Twitter? So we're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible, right? In that respect. But every so often we get guys to say, take me off your list. And so we're not sure if we're just bombarding them too much with stuff. But you can go back into your account, your subscription, and readjust it if it's just too much. I know during COVID, it was like every day, right? Everybody's getting pounded with a COVID update. So we're trying to make sure that we're giving you information to a point that it doesn't look like we're crying wolf. And then all of a sudden everyone's desensitized and now nobody's listening, right? So there's that fine line that we're trying to walk as well.
On a personal note, I would say that I've among my close group, I've seen some fatigue with the amount of messaging, and I don't think that any of them know that they can tailor the amount of involvement they have with that messaging system. So I think getting that message out may be beneficial, maybe even through that method. Hey, if you're hearing too much from us, customize your experience, and this is how you do it. But then the other thing I'd like to raise is the difference between an alert and a message. A lot of what we get there are messages, and people expect to get alerts through what they deem as more official routes, like the emergency alert system, the all hazards warning system, stuff like that. So,
right. So, you have a thing called EAS, Emergency Alert System. You also have a thing called WIA, Wireless Emergency Alerts. Those are the ones that we would get on our telephone, on our smartphone. And then the EAS is the crawlers and the stuff that comes off where we can break into the radio station. We still have a thing called Marty, the Marty that can break into the radio stations, but that'll be like a live mic. And so, you're on the air, you're reading your script and you're doing your thing. And so that's with like Chris Leonard and then he can rebroadcast that out to the other radio stations as well. But yeah, so what we could do, and we've talked about this, and then the WIA, we can actually geofence the WIA message on our island that it only hits certain towers. And then let's say it's a fire message for evacuation. So the certain area has been geofenced. You go ahead and push that out. That means everyone else that's not within that geofenced area will not get that message. Everybody within will get that message of evacuation.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but would that be if they live there, or would that be, I live here, but I'm in Kona right now?
Good question. Yeah, like let's say that I live there, but I'm not there right now. So it's an evacuation within that geofenced area, and it's only for those that have their telephones within that geofenced area. I don't live in that area. I happen to have just traveled into it 5 minutes after you sent that message out. Well, guess what? Your telephone is going to get pinged until we say the duration of that messaging is done. So the minimum is 15 minutes. It can be as many multiple hours that we can have that geofence up. So let's say you fly into Hawaii Island and you flew in after the EAS the WEA has gone out. You'll still get pinged if the geofence is for the entire island, for example, or that airport that you're landing into. So we could do that, and we did that back in 2018 with the lava eruption down in Leilani. That one night that it started to overflow and overtake house after house after house, lot after lot. We did put the geofence. We did do the sirens in that area, and we set everybody out of the pool. Right. And then that's how we were able to communicate. So, but we hold that off just for that occasion where it's like urgent. So you're right. Yeah, William. And that is, there is that moment where you're alerted where now it's like an action item, public action item. Action needs to be taken immediately. What is that action? Evacuate or something else, hunker down or do something. So we'll have those action items there. But again, it comes back to this plan. What's everybody's plan? So I evacuate. Where am I going to? What is my evacuation plan? Does it say go to the public shelter? No. Mine might mean go to William's house, right? And hey, he's my buddy. I'm going to go over there and spend time over there with him rather than why should I go to a public place that I really don't know anybody, right? That kind of a thing. So still, it comes back to having a plan, right?
You know, one of the things we're doing right now, which I think is a really good partnership, is that on the first working day of the month, the different amateur radio operators adopt a siren somewhere. Okay, we check it and feedback to you, the working, not working, or work partial at the time, that kind of thing. But I see that as a real partnership. You know, it works good. But I like to have the similar kind of relationship when a disaster strikes. So, you know, that is there a way to do that, to have the amateur radio presence as an important part of your whole process of responding?
Right. So Alan, we want to continue to build not only with BIARC, but the other clubs around, which are all resources, right? That are embedded in the community. So whatever is a community-based resource that we would use during a response, or even prior to, for mitigation, prevention, preparedness, protection, we want to be able to work and capitalize and do that. I'd say what we should do is maybe periodically hold meetings, not this kind of a club meeting, but actually like planning meetings with civil defense, yeah. And then we go from there and we say, hey, well, why don't we involve the cars, and why don't we involve other, and then start building it up and getting to the point where we say, hey, wow, this it's making sense now. We're actually coming up with a plan, right? All right. Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Bill.
Bill.
Bill, I have one personal question for you. Yes, sir. What inspired you to adopt your damn call sign?
What is it again?
N0CAN, no can. Two things. First, my original call sign was WH6EDD. I think EDD stands for something else, right? And then, so I was going, well, what are some call signs out there? So I saw a call sign that I liked. It was no can, because I could say it both ways. I could say no can, and I could say no can.
That's not a bad call sign.
Thank you. Okay, Mel, it's your turn now. Can you get us excited about Grid Madness?
Before,
okay.
I didn't see your question, Mel. Do you want to ask it, the one you had in the chat box?
Oh,
Sure.
what is it?
For Bill, when we have our exercises, set exercise and such, and we send messages to the EOC, does the EOC actually get the message, or is it capable of getting the message?
Yeah, absolutely. So in the Tropical Storm Calvin, I was actually sitting at the EOC receiving the WinLink messages. And I was right next to the whole team there. I could tap anyone on the shoulder and pass that message along to whichever group needed to. So typically what I would do would be to ask Bill, you know, what to do, since I'm just getting up to speed on all of this. But yeah, we had a direct interface into the EOC.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have an update on Tony's question. I just confirmed in the drawings, we actually do have a network connection that is about to go live that will connect to the EOC. The microwave link that we are putting between Kalani Cone and Pepe Keo ties into the microwave link that we put up with the state of Hawaii to their Waiakea site. And then there's fiber access right through the data room in EOC. So the infrastructure is already there.
Okay, Mel, go ahead.
Well, we've been able to resurrect Grid Madness, and I sent out an email today. I hope all of you got it. It's going to take place a week from today from 1 to 5 p.m. Hawaii time. It's open to all licensed amateur radio operators, and it's only using simplex, no repeaters. And the object of the exercise or the contest is number one, to have fun. And number two is to get us used to communicating with each other just by simplex in case we lose power and the repeaters go down. And we've proved that we can talk to other islands under the right conditions.
so we can't get information from island to island. We're using different VHF and UHF bands, and we can relay. You get extra points for relaying from one ham to another, those who can't hear each other. You can get more details on the website. Well, one thing we added this year is at a request, somebody wanted a digital watering hole. So we've designated 146.580 as a digital gathering place. And my suggestion is to start off with VHF analog, which we're all used to, and then from there decide what mode you're going to use, what time slot, what color code, and all those things. That's as far as we can get this year. Next year, if we get more help on with websites and planning, we can make it a little more sophisticated. Thanks.
Okay, Mel, thank you very much. Jim, you're on.
Oh, I thought we were gonna, are we gonna have a break first or?
Oh,
Or,
it's a great idea. 5-minute break.
and the Zoom session will stay on, and I'll put my microphone here on the table if you want to have a conversation with anybody. Hey, Jimmy, I didn't see you join.
Hey, aloha. I see you, Joe. Hey, Jim. Aloha.
Schrodinger's USB port. Yeah. You say Schrodinger's USB port? Yeah, you try it. But when you approach it, you're able to pick up, she was able to pick us on Maui SDR transmitting from in here. Nice. So it does work. Yes, it does. So. Yeah, put it in with it and then tighten it with it. So just what? So just me not having it tighten that. Yeah, because the other night we tried without these radios. Oh. We did it without radios, and he was able to tune. We tossed them on like 4 different bands. Maybe add these later for to help better. It did work and it did too. But I think maybe you want to put an eye out. Yeah. It doesn't tune. It just built into the
Yeah, so that's the FT-991.
Okay, meeting comes back to order. Okay, Zoom callers, we're getting back together again.
Give us a minute, please. What? Yeah, 7080. So as most people know, as a club, we decided we were going to use the money from the auction to get a club radio and a club antenna. And Roy purchased the FT-991 Alpha radio. Also, he purchased the, I don't think we can see it, this antenna, it's a screwdriver antenna. It's an ATAS-120 that's meant to work with the Yaesu radios. And the antenna goes up and down to tune it. So like when you change bands, you hit tune and the antenna will go up and down until it finds the best SWRs. and it also does UHF and VHF. So along with that, this radio has two inputs. It has the HF input and the UHF VHF. So then we have a duplexer from yeah, it says duplexer on it, from a Comet, which then splits the incoming signal, sends the HF to the HF port and the UHF VHF to the to those ports. So the nice thing about this radio is that it's a kind of a shack in the box. It's all bands, so it goes all the way from, the radio can go down to 160 meters all the way up to 70 centimeters, all with one rig. No moving any parts or reconfiguring it or anything. Just select the band you want to use. Right now, the antenna is tuned to 7088, which is the the frequency we use for the 40 meter net. And so this antenna is inside right now. So I'm going to see if I can fry Alan here, because he's real close. You might want to move away.
What's your power on that?
Well, right now it's 100 watts. So yeah, so you probably need to be about 8 feet, probably good enough. Yeah.
It's non-ionizing radiation.
So this antenna is inside. And do you want to put the Maui SDR up on the?
1 second here. Okay, so
you need to drag it over.
Yeah, I need to. So we can both.
There you go.
I'm monitoring it over here too on the SDR.
So can everybody see the Maui SDR screen? Okay, so I'm going to transmit, and we should see it on there. This is WH6FQI radio check. So there's a delay, because the signals go in there and then they get.
It has to go to the mainland and then come back over the internet.
And yeah, it's exactly. So earlier he could actually put headphones on. He could hear me through the Maui SDR. So obviously it would work tons better outside than it is working inside. Well, since it's a vertical,
What'll happen is the signal will go out and you'll get a reflection off of what's outside, and that's what will give you the NVIS activity off of it.
Yeah, testing 1, 2, 3, test. WH6FQI. So we just heard that through the Maui SDR.
But the RF seems to freak out the camera or something like that.
Yeah.
So that is the same problem that we get all the time with the stations, where if you have the RF, it drops the USB. We've been fighting that with the
Yeah, at my home I have that problem.
Yeah, and I don't have any ferrites in any of this equipment. So if you have a problem like this, please visit Hank right back here.
Yes.
They're going fast.
So right now I'd like to show you the antenna going up and down. So if you could aim the.
I'm going to have to stop sharing that.
Okay, yep, that's all right. Yeah.
Hey, Jim, do you know where that SDR is located on Maui?
I do not. Gary might.
It's a private lot with the goes between California and yeah, it's a dog antenna. It's is there more than one? There are more than one SDR. This is the Maui. Yeah.
So what I'm going to do now is I change to 10 meters. I'm going to hit the tune button, and you should see the antennas getting shorter. It's moving down. I don't know how well it comes out on TV, but if you can see that little band that it's about, you can see that moving down. Oh, it is slow.
Well,
It's got a
and
tiny little gear motor
I
in
don't
it.
think they can see the whip that's on top of the coil either.
there's
online.
really reflective on the top of the whip.
Yeah, but I think it's just lost in the white background. So everyone online, there's actually what a 3-foot whip on top of that black coil.
So since we're inside, we're not getting that great SWRs, but what I can do is I saw the SWRs come down to round 2, but then they started going back up and it kind of shot it. So what you can do is key the mic, and if I hit up, it goes up in frequency, and I can watch the SWR meter. What? No, it's okay. So I'm making it. Oh, maybe I went the wrong way. So I'm watching the SWRs. The antenna is getting longer. I see the SWRs going down. Now back up. So the best I can get is around 2 inside here, But you can use it, so you can manually tune it with the microphone, not only just using the tune button. So rather than going through that whole tuning process where it might go all the way to the end and back down, if you're just moving within a band, you can just use the microphone to manually tune it. And to manually tune or to automatic? To manually tune, you hold the PTT and use the up and down button. Down is down in frequency, up is up in frequency. So it's not move the antenna down and up. It's frequency down, frequency up. So when you hit the up button, the antenna will get shorter.
Is the radio actually changing frequency?
No.
Not when you do it that.
Yeah. So if I go down to 28,300 and I hit tune, it's getting longer, but it overshot it. So it doesn't generally do that when it's outside and there's not a lot of obstruction. So I want to go up in frequency. I think. Yeah, there it goes. Now it came back. Now it's tuned again for 28,289 right now. So that is the combination of the ATAS and the 991. The advantage of using that is, you don't have to tune like a dipole. You don't have to get out there and shorten or lengthen it. You can just do it from sitting right in front of the radio. And it works really well inside, like if you have it mounted to your vehicle. When we had the Ham Fest up in Waimea, Roy I think he was running the ATAS on his truck, and I have the ATAS in my truck. And we made, Texas and Colorado contacts. What? Was 15 meters? On 15 meters, just driving up the Hamakua coast, which was, I think, is pretty impressive for like a mobile antenna. So I'm really.
Didn't he say he made a contact in Spain too with his HCAS on the mobile ones?
Yes. I think he was sitting down at the Bayfront. So yeah, he's made some amazing contacts using that antenna. Just sitting in his when he was driving the cab. So then the next nice reason why we got this radio is that in order to do digital or rig control or even satellite, you don't need to have a what's that thing that has the sound interface that everybody has?
RE25 or the signal link?
The signal link. You don't need a signal link. You don't need an RE25. You don't need an external sound card. This radio has a sound card built into it. So you just connect a USB cable, just like you use on your printer. And when you connect the cable, it installs what looks like a microphone and a speaker. When you look at, when you go to select on the taskbar, you can see what, for selecting the volume control. you can select the radio. And this way, when you do things like WindLink, FLDG, slow scan TV, it's super simple. You just select that sound card for the microphone for transmitting, and then the speakers for receiving. And so the setup is super easy. Did you want to show on your screen like how when you plug it in how the
You can get on Joe's JS8 call night.
exactly yeah. So
okay, so let me share a screen here really quick. I gotta do that from here. Okay, so how do I? It does weird things when I try to share when I'm also the host. So you guys aren't going to be able to see it unless I do it backwards. Let me share a different screen really quick. Okay, I'm gonna have to try one other way to see if I can do this. Okay, so here is the device manager. You can simply go to the run bar, that search window, and type in device manager. It'll populate. You can go. Or if you're like me, you already have a shortcut on your desktop because you're a nerd. This is where you look at all the devices that are available in your computer, be it a printer, be it a mouse, or COM ports, which is what we're looking for here, which is under ports. And here we have 4 ports that are available. The Silicon Labs ports that are on the top are this radio. They're COM port 9 and COM port 8. There's the serial over Bluetooth link. That's something else entirely. You don't generally use that. Although I think, Jim, you said you're going to try using that to control your 991, aren't you?
no, I was going to use it to control my rotor controller for my satellite.
Okay. So you need to know these COM port numbers when you go to set up this radio to work with any device. Now, I quickly downloaded WinLink Express. It's never been used before on this laptop, so it's going to have to get set up. So I'm going to just grab and see what modem I can open.
You have to have sound modem to do the packet WinLink.
Oh, it just vanished on me. All right, I'll have to show that up later because I have no idea where.
Go to don't use packet. Try RDOT.
It showed up over here, but it's not letting me select it. Hold on. That's why. No, there was a pop-up that it was buried under other stuff I couldn't move from Zoom on this other screen. So I couldn't touch anything. Okay, so it's saying TNC initialization has failed. That's the terminal node controller. That's what your SoundLink or whatever device you're using would be to connect it. But here we don't have to have one of those devices. We're going to use the sound card that's right in the radio.
Yes.
So we're going to go to the settings and we're going to go to the radio setup. So here I can simply go down and say that I'm using a 991A. It has everything pre-populated for the default settings there. But what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to tell it what COM port to use. It has all 4 of the COM ports that were in my device manager displayed. The same thing happens when you use an ICOM radio. You use one of them for rig control and the other one is for other functions that I don't remember off the top of my head. Jim, do you remember, do we use the lower or higher numbered port?
The one that's labeled enhanced, like if you just kind of slide over
to the device manager.
So COM9.
Okay, so now I've got to stop sharing that and instead share this. So now you guys can see the settings that we're working on here. So I have to use COM9, which we looked at over there. And this is your basic serial port setup. What's your baud rate? Are you going to use ready to send? And all of that. Now, we also have to worry about another one. How are we going to key the radio? So that would have to be COM8 because it's the other port that does keying,
I
right?
don't know. I selected FT-991A. I think then it sends the commands via.
You need the code in there too.
No, I didn't use COM9.
Okay.
You see, there's FT-991/A.
Oh yeah, it does have it. Oh, I missed it. There we go. So then it automatically knows to encode it over the C, what do they call that interface? But the radio command interface that way. And then what code did you say we needed, Gary?
It's the it's in the radio. Was it like H?
No,
that was
that's with ICOM.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
So I think you just hit
Yep, just
update.
And then it's going to close, and then I'm going to have to reopen it. And this is what had me hung up. No, that was over there. So it reopened it. Is that the one? Hold on.
That's probably because we don't have RDOP installed, or it doesn't install RDOP automatically, or no?
RDOP's part of it, but yeah, no one's using RDOP.
Yeah.
We'll open a new session. It wants to update the propagation.
Yeah, you don't.
So TNC initialization has still failed.
That's probably because the RDOP's not installed.
No, I thought RDOP came with it.
I thought so, but it says port 8200. Those settings, RDOP.
Oh, RDOP
TNC setup.
So no, it must not have RDOP modem installed then.
Yeah, they use. Oh, that's right. It was Windmore that automatically was installed.
Yeah, you have to go to that bar page and download bar.
Yep. Well, that's how you set the COM ports. We can do another whole program on how to set that stuff up, but that's how you get the control of the radio into a piece of software that you're going to use. You go to that device manager, you look up those serial port numbers, and then you go into the configuration page in the software you're using, whether it's called preferences or settings or whatever the case may be, and you plug in the right COM ports into that software, and away you go.
You have Ham Radio Deluxe, don't you?
Not on here. This is my
that's okay.
This is my field service laptop.
Oh.
Or yeah. What was
Display anything that's connected coming across any commands coming across the service.
Why? Any questions about the 991, the ATAS antenna? Anything you want answered? So we're going to use this antenna as the antenna for the winter field day down at the same place we had the last field day. And I think we're going to put a counterpoise wire into the water to make sure we have a good ground plane, and we're going to see how it performs. So that'll be kind of like the real field test of this antenna.
So the kit that Roy put together for the club includes this case, which also has the tri-band radio that Les donated to the club. I think I have that up there. And then it has a slot here to hold the radio and some accessories. And then he got a case meant for holding rifles, I believe. And this holds the ATAS antenna when it is broken down. This case will also end up holding the, I think it's a Slim Jim we decided we're going to make and throw in here for the tri-band antenna, or the tri-band radio. So this is the grab and go kit the club now has put together, is these two cases.
Yeah, so if we do an event or anything, all you need is the case with the radio, the case for the antenna, and the tripod if you want to use it. That if you have something else to mount it to, like you at the wherever you're setting up, the whole bracket is just held on with two U-bolts. So you could take it off the that piece of pipe and put it on. It can clamp to a railing somewhere, or what? Yeah, trailer hitch with a pipe on it or something. So it's meant to be very versatile, and or put it on the car, and it works awesome. So I think it's a good versatile club antenna. It's not going to replace, a full size antenna in some instances where we could put up like an end-fed or a dipole, but it's a as you call grab and go, something quick you can set up, pretty fast, and it's not take long to break down.
Jimmy has a question.
Mike, okay, this is a ham shack in a box with the antenna and everything. Actually, this guy right here, that's a 24-year Delta Force or Green Beret, Green Beret, and he was a comm guy. And we're building a ham shack here in Arkansas. That package you got right there for the club, just a rough estimate. What does something like that cost?
Tony, do you remember what the cost for
the whole package, man?
Less than 1,500.
No, it was.
Was it? I don't
Well, the radio itself was 1,200 for the FT-991, and then the how much was the ATAS?
No, I thought it was 3 something,
Yeah,
and then
so maybe 1,600.
and 100 for the cases, I think, or 200.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say about 1,800 total, including the cases and everything.
Thank you, because we're building a ham. We're fixing to set up here. We're going to build a MCOM station here. He was a radio man. We got special operations with me, special forces with him, and we're about to put up a ham shack. We've got our 5G in and stuff, but radios. Anyway, thank you guys, man. Great
Now, Jimmy,
presentation.
this isn't necessarily the antenna you would want to use at your QTH ham shack. This is good for a grab and go, which is why we chose the ATAS-120. But a dipole or an off-center fed dipole or any of your traditional wire antennas are going to be much more efficient and effective than the ATAS-120. The thing is you can't set them up in a matter of 2 minutes. So that's why we selected this antenna. But if you're going to do your ham shack, I recommend that you use any of the good old standbys, like an off-center fed dipole, like a Buckmaster or something like that.
And that would be a lot less expensive too.
Yep.
But definitely the shack in the box is a good option. You spend that once, you've got it. You've got the bands you want. You got all the HF. So I would recommend. Go ahead.
One last question, man. Is this a PhD radio setup? I mean, or you know what I mean?
It's not easy, but if you use the settings that are already published by the people who've learned how to navigate the menus, it becomes easy.
Thank you. I love you guys, man. You're the best. You're simply the best. Thank you.
Yeah. As far as like say setting it up for WindLink or something, there are a number of you can Google it and it'll tell you what settings that you need to change to set it up. So there are cheat sheets out there, and of course there's always a number of us out here that we can help you out with, because we can walk you through our settings for our radios. Because I have this radio, Roy has this radio, and now the club has this radio.
Well, and I believe
Right
you
on.
can back up.
Chris said he's going to do the testing to make sure everything is right with my old HF and my old Buckmaster, and if all the testing comes back right, he's going to mail that to me. The only request I'm gonna get, and one of y'all can send it to me on social media, but once I get my Buckmaster and the HF that I had in my ham shack in Fern Forest, I need to know what degrees from where I live would I want to set the Buckmaster for the best chance to be able to talk HF with you guys. If I got you from Arkansas, man, I would do a cartwheel.
Oh, you'll definitely be able to get us. We'll help you out, Jimmy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Jim, I have a question.
Sure.
This radio has a USB interface, not just for the sound card, but you can also save the configuration, right?
Yes, I use the, what's the name of the program? What? No, the programming software, RT Systems. Yes, I have the RT System software, so I can, so right now, if I hit the V/M, go to the memory mode, it's displaying Kalani 146760, and then I can use the microphone to go to like, I can go to different programmed, I programmed a whole bunch of repeaters in here. Yes, I did. So right now, wonder if I can hit the.
So
repeater.
Chirp also supports the programming in this radio. So
Does it?
yes.
I did not know that. Apparently, it's not. Oh, I'm digital. It's digital
The
mode.
official use will be the, Joe, the date for the C2 Worldwide.
October 28th.
October 28th will be the day that this will be in the field. And me and Jim were talking about taking this down a little ways beforehand, connecting a whisper beacon to it and seeing what a propagation model looks like from it before that event.
Just to see how well we're getting out.
So Jim, can that antenna be set up to do the VHF too? Or?
Yeah.
I just got an update that on 7.6 Kulani, they just announced that Kilauea was erupting.
What?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's bubbling in the crater again.
Oh, okay. Huh. Okay, I don't have anything else. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Boy, that's cool. Okay, anybody has any announcements for the group? None? Meeting adjourned.
Don't forget Grid Bandits next week.
Yep.
Yes, and then.
Okay, we got it. Yeah.
The October
Okay.
set, there will not be another meeting before the October set. We are looking to do health and welfare traffic with WinLink. So basically sending WinLink messages either through a hub and spoke or directly from your. So the second Saturday, the day before the next club meeting, will be the October set. Aries is looking to do health and welfare traffic through WinLink. It can be either through HF or VHF, UHF. Joe volunteered to be one hub station for up in the Volcano area, but this time we're not looking to send stuff to civil defense. We're really looking to send stuff to your friends or family. So it's going to be a personal email message that'll be sent over radio to your friends or family. So more information should come out by email on that once.
We got our Aries meeting next Saturday.
Okay.
So we'll know.
Officially next Saturday.
Yeah, because I didn't hear anything about it last month, because last month Aries meeting, the guys from Maui supposed to have presented the meeting, but because of the fire, it was real short meeting made by Speroni in Honolulu.
Okay.
So this month's meeting, hopefully we'll get more information.
Get the details on the
yeah,
form
on
and
the
everything.
set. I can let you know. at
Okay.
that time.
There won't be another club meeting before that time, so check your emails.
Okay, thank you. The last thing I have is to put the chairs back. 16 over here, 6 over there, 9 over here, and 3 already there. So You can remember 16. What did I say? 6 and 9. Okay.
Okay, and before we go, I actually have one thing. Here is the current activity in the crater at Kilauea.
Wow.
Yep.
Wow.
Got the marshmallows.
Wow.
Yeah, it's 6 earthquakes in the span of half an hour.
the caldera.
Yes, right now. This is live.
Yeah, right now. That's live.
Wow.
Amazing.
Holy cow, look. Our volcano is blowing again. Look, dude. That's live. Right now, that's our Kilauea volcano.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but I'll leave this on a little bit while we tear down.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Thanks again, William.
Yep.